safe." A complete stranger's voice cut through Matthew Perry's panic attack like a lifeline. She could have sold the story to tabloids, taken photos, made it about his fame. Instead, she made it about his humanity. It was a brutally hot Tuesday afternoon in July 2004 when Matthew Perry pulled his silver BMW into a parking spot on Rodeo Drive, his hands already trembling before he even turned off the engine. He had driven to Beverly Hills with a simple mission: pick up his prescription from the pharmacy, grab lunch at his usual spot, and return home to his Malibu beach house where he could hide from the world for the rest of the day. What he hadn't anticipated was that this ordinary errand would become the setting for one of the most profound human encounters of his life. Matthew was 18 months into his most serious attempt at sobriety, having completed another round of treatment at Promises in early 2003. The prescription he was picking up wasn't for painkillers. Those days were behind him, at least for now. Instead, it was for Klonopin, a medication prescribed to help manage the severe anxiety and panic attacks that had become increasingly frequent since he'd gotten clean. Without the numbing comfort of opiates, every emotion felt magnified, every stress amplified to an almost unbearable degree. The panic attacks had started subtly, manifesting as mild chest tightness during particularly stressful moments on the Friends set. But over the past few months, they had evolved into full-blown episodes that could strike anywhere, anytime, without warning. Just the week before, he had experienced one during a script reading that was so severe, he had to excuse himself and spend 20 minutes in his trailer trying to remember how to breathe normally. As Matthew sat in his car outside the CVS pharmacy, he could feel the familiar warning signs beginning to build. His heart rate was accelerating, his palms were growing sweaty, and there was a tightness in his chest that made each breath feel insufficient. He gripped the steering wheel and tried to employ the breathing techniques his therapist had taught him, but the symptoms were already gaining momentum. The trigger for today's attack had been seemingly innocuous. A paparazzi photographer had recognized him at a red light 3 blocks away and had begun taking photos through his windshield. Matthew had managed to drive away without incident, but the feeling of being exposed and vulnerable in that moment had activated something primal in his nervous system. Now, sitting in what should have been the safety of his parked car, he was experiencing the delayed reaction to that perceived threat. Within minutes, the panic attack reached its peak intensity. Matthew's vision began to tunnel. His breathing became rapid and shallow, and he started experiencing the terrifying sensation that he was either going to pass out or die right there in the driver's seat. His rational mind knew that panic attacks weren't dangerous, but in the moment, rationality was completely overwhelmed by the primitive fear response that had hijacked his nervous system. He fumbled for his cell phone, thinking he should call his assistant or his therapist, but his hands were shaking so badly that he couldn't manage to dial. Sweat was pouring down his face despite the air conditioning, and he was making small, involuntary sounds of distress that he hoped no one outside the car could hear. That's when he heard the gentle tapping on his passenger side window. Matthew looked up through his sweat-blurred vision to see a woman in her 40s standing outside his car. She was dressed casually in jeans and a white button-down shirt, with shoulder-length brown hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Her expression showed concern rather than recognition, and she was making a gentle, roll-down-the-window gesture with her hand. For a moment, Matthew's paranoia kicked in. Was this another photographer, someone looking to take advantage of his vulnerable state? But something about her demeanor suggested otherwise. She looked like someone who was genuinely concerned about his welfare rather than someone seeking to exploit it. With trembling fingers, Matthew managed to lower the passenger window about halfway. "Hi," the woman said softly, crouching down to be at eye level with him. "My name is Linda. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I couldn't help but notice that you seem to be having some kind of medical emergency. Are you okay?" Matthew tried to speak but could only manage a strangled, I can't breathe." Linda's expression immediately shifted into professional mode. "It's okay. You're having a panic attack, which feels terrible but isn't dangerous. Can I help you through this?" Matthew nodded frantically, grateful that someone understood what was happening to him. "Great. First, I want you to know that you're safe. You're in your car, in a public place, and you're not in any physical danger. Can you hear me clearly?" "Yes," Matthew managed to whisper. "Perfect. Now, I want you to breathe with me. We're going to slow down your breathing, which will help slow down your heart rate. Watch my chest and try to match my breathing pattern." Linda began demonstrating slow, deep breaths, inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 2, and exhaling for 6. She spoke in a calm, measured voice that somehow cut through the chaos in Matthew's mind. "In through your nose. Hold it. Out through your mouth. You're doing great. Just keep following my breathing." For the next several minutes, Linda guided Matthew through the breathing exercise with the patience and skill of someone who had clearly helped many people through similar crises. She didn't ask about his identity, didn't mention recognizing him from television, didn't pull out a phone to take photos. She simply focused on helping another human being who was in distress. Gradually, Matthew felt his heart rate beginning to slow and his breathing becoming less frantic. The tunnel vision was starting to clear, and the overwhelming sense of impending doom was beginning to recede. "That's much better," Linda said encouragingly. "You're coming out of it now. How are you feeling?" "Better," Matthew said, his voice still shaky but stronger than it had been a few minutes earlier. "Thank you. I really thought I was dying." "That's completely normal with panic attacks. Your brain was convinced you were in mortal danger, so your body responded accordingly, but you handled that really well." Matthew looked at this stranger, who had just talked him through one of the worst episodes he'd experienced in months, and he felt a surge of gratitude that was almost overwhelming. "Are you really a nurse?" he asked. Linda smiled. 22 years. I work in the ER at Cedars-Sinai, so I've seen plenty of panic attacks. I was just finishing my lunch break when I noticed you in distress." Matthew realized that she had probably been on her way back to work at one of LA's most prominent hospitals when she had stopped to help him. She had no obligation to get involved, could have easily walked past his car and minded her own business, but had chosen to help instead. "I have to ask," Matthew said hesitantly. "Did you recognize me?" Linda's expression became thoughtful. "I did. You're Matthew Perry from Friends. My daughter is a huge fan of the show." Matthew's heart sank slightly. Here it comes, he thought. The request for an autograph, or a photo, or a story she could share with friends. But Linda surprised him. "But that's not why I stopped. I stopped because I saw someone having a medical emergency, and my training kicked in. It wouldn't have mattered if you were famous, or completely unknown. I would have done the same thing." The simple humanity of her response nearly brought tears to Matthew's eyes. After years of feeling like people only saw him as Chandler Bing or as tabloid fodder, here was someone who had seen him simply as a person who needed help. "That means more to me than you could possibly know," Matthew said quietly. Linda reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. "I want to give you this, not because I'm trying to insert myself into your life, but because I want you to know that if you ever have another attack and you're in the area, you can call me. Panic attacks are manageable, but they're easier to deal with when you're not alone." Matthew took the card, studying the simple text. "Linda Morrison, RN, MSN, Emergency Department, Cedars-Sinai Medical Center." "I've been dealing with these for months," Matthew admitted. "They've been getting worse since I got sober. My therapist says it's normal, that my nervous system is learning how to function without chemicals, but sometimes I feel like I'm losing my mind." "Recovery is incredibly brave," Linda said simply. "And yes, anxiety often gets worse before it gets better when you're newly sober. Your brain is literally rewiring itself. But what you just did, getting through that attack without medication or substances, that's huge progress." They talked for a few more minutes, with Linda offering practical advice about managing anxiety and panic attacks. She recommended specific breathing techniques, suggested he consider carrying a small ice pack in his car for grounding during episodes, and encouraged him to be patient with himself during the recovery process. "I should probably let you get back to your day," Linda finally said. "But I want you to know that what you're doing, getting clean, dealing with your mental health, it's inspiring. I see a lot of people in the ER who are struggling with addiction, and not all of them have the courage to get help. Thank you for saying that, and thank you for just seeing me as a person instead of as a celebrity having a breakdown. That's all you are," Linda said with a gentle smile. A person. A person who deserves help and kindness, just like anyone else." After Linda left, Matthew sat in his car for another 10 minutes, processing what had just happened. In a city where human connection often felt transactional, where his celebrity status usually created barriers rather than bridges, this stranger had offered him pure, unconditional help without expecting anything in return. He still went into the pharmacy to pick up his prescription, but something fundamental had shifted. The panic attack that had felt so overwhelming and isolating had been transformed into a reminder that there were still good people in the world. People who would help a stranger in distress simply because it was the right thing to do. Matthew kept Linda's business card in his wallet for the rest of his life. He never called her for help with another panic attack, but knowing that he could, knowing that somewhere in the city there was someone who had seen him at his most vulnerable and had responded with pure compassion, became a source of comfort that helped him through many difficult days. 6 months later, Matthew made an anonymous donation to the emergency department at Cedars-Sinai, specifically requesting that it be used to fund mental health training for nurses. In the note accompanying the donation, he wrote, "For Linda Morrison and all the nurses who see people, not problems." Linda never knew about the donation, but she continued working in the ER, helping people through their worst moments with the same combination of professional skill and human kindness that she had shown Matthew that day on Rodeo Drive. Years later, when Matthew spoke publicly about his struggles with addiction and mental health, he would often reference a nurse who helped me through a panic attack without giving specifics. He wanted to protect Linda's privacy while still honoring the impact she had made on his life. Sometimes, he would say, the most profound moments of grace come from complete strangers who choose to see your humanity instead of your fame. Those are the encounters that restore your faith in people. The story of Matthew Perry and Linda Morrison isn't just about a celebrity having a panic attack. It's about the healing power of human kindness, the importance of seeing people for who they really are rather than who we think they are, and the profound impact that one moment of genuine compassion can have on a person's life. In a world that often feels cynical and divided, their brief encounter on a hot Tuesday afternoon in Beverly Hills stands as a reminder that simple human decency still exists and that sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply help someone breathe.